Here we go. It's time to call out the bull. Here are 5 small engine related myths that I see shared everywhere online from YouTube creators, Facebook groups, forums, and believe it or not, even some dealers as well. Ooh, it's a bit of a spicy one. The higher the octane rating, the more power. It sounds familiar, right? It's actually a really common myth, and it's not true. The octane rating measures the fuel's ability to resist automatically igniting under pressure. The takeaway here is that octane is not the measure of energy content itself, like many people assume. Here's the truth. So octane alone doesn't give you more power, but what it does do is allows your engine to take advantage of higher compression ratios and advanced ignition timing. That can create more power, but only in engines that are designed to use it. Going the other way, using a low octane fuel in an engine with high compression or aggressive ignition timing can cause the charge to automatically ignite within different pockets inside the cylinder ahead of the flame front created by the spark plug. Now, as these separate flame fronts expand and they collide, it creates huge pressure spikes and shock waves, which can deteriorate and damage the piston. This condition is known as detonation, or more commonly engine knock, and it's not to be confused with pre-ignition. The major difference between the two is that pre-ignition occurs before the spark plug fires, and detonation or knock occurs after the spark event. Most small engines aren't designed to benefit from higher octane, so using it will not give you more power. You can go to a higher octane, but it's just not necessary. In fact, the only time I recommend you do is if the higher octane doesn't contain ethanol. I know I'm really poking the bear on this one. The myth is that if you change oil ratios, you must retune that carburetor, otherwise the engine can run lean and it can lead to scoring. What a load of rubbish. Let's take the 3 most common oil ratios: 32:1, 40:1, and 50:1. Although they look drastically different, the actual change in oil volume between each one is about 0.5%. To try and visualize that difference, it works out as about 1.2 mils inside a standard tank of a small engine. And I've actually done a video and I've tested changing oil ratios and seeing how that engine responds to it.
In it goes. That's 50:1. That's now gone to 40:1. Put that all in.
Actually, surprisingly enough, more oil made the engine run slower, the opposite of what people suggest would have happened.
50:1 was 5880. 40:1 was 5760. We lost 120 RPM.
And honestly, that change had nothing to do with the oil ratios. In fact, it's far more likely to do with the change of ambient temperatures over the couple of hours that I was actually doing the filming. Now, it's important to clarify, I'm not saying that changing oil ratios doesn't affect an engine. It does. You'll get increased lubrication, you'll get more smoke, you'll get more residue, and you'll get more exhaust smell. Not tuning, not to any degree that we would notice. So in this case, what factors do affect engine tuning? Well, firstly, we have the age of the fuel. That's a really big one, and its condition as well. How much fuel is in your tank, even what fuel station you visit, position of the high and low speed screws, the condition of the carburetor kit, air leaks, exhaust restrictions, air filter blockage, temperature, air density, fuel filter blockages, altitude. The list is endless, but if we put fuel ratios on there, it would be at the very bottom. Okay, you get the point, let's move on. Many people suggest that you should let a new engine idle for a few tanks or baby it in use to let that engine break in. Yet in fact, both of those methods are about the worst thing that you can do to a new engine. The only thing that has to occur is to seat the piston rings. And both of those earlier methods will actually do the opposite. It will actually stop the rings from seating and potentially lead to a glazed bore. That means reduced compression and therefore lower power. You see, you need load on the engine to increase combustion pressure, which actually gets behind the rings and forces them against the cylinder wall. This creates a very small amount of wear on the piston ring's outer surface, which actually matches the minor imperfections in the cylinder wall. It normally takes somewhere around 7 to 10 tanks for those piston rings to fully seat, but when they have, you'll have that good seal, compression increases, power increases, and the engine will run optimally. It's said that tilting a two-stroke engine on its side will show an air leak, another really common one that's very misunderstood. Now, there's no denying that moving an engine around can cause fluctuations in engine RPM. But it can't be reliably attributed to an air leak. And also, just because the engine does change in RPM, it doesn't indicate there's even a problem. You could be pinching the fuel line, the fuel filter might come out of the fuel, you can release fuel that's pulled in the crankcase. All these things will change how the engine runs, and it could cause you to chase an air leak when it's not even there. So there are only two methods that you should use to find an air leak, and tilting the saw isn't one of them. The first being a pressure and vacuum test, and I've put links to that tool in the description below for you. It's the most important tool, I think, that any small engine mechanic should own. The second is a dynamic test, and that's where you use a flammable liquid and you spray it on a running engine in different areas that you think could be leaking air. If the engine changes RPM, you know you've got an air leak. Now, neither one of those methods on their own is a reliable indicator, so it's always best to do both if in doubt. Now, before we move on to this last myth, I've actually got a favour to ask you guys. If you've enjoyed this one or any of my videos in the past, I ask that you please give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section below, and please consider subscribing too. Such a small action from you guys can make the difference between a video's success or failure, and it doesn't cost you anything to do. And lastly, a massive thank you to my Patreon members. I really appreciate your continued support. So many people, even professionals, say that bluing underneath the bar rails is overheating, be it from dull chains, no bar oil, a pinched bar, all of which cause bluing, but they do show up very differently. Instead of that consistent blue strip, you'll actually see localized small areas of overheating. When you see that blue strip all the way around the bar, it's actually a good sign. It's the induction hardening process from the factory. If they didn't do this, those rails would be so soft and they'd wear away really quickly. So next time someone tells you that that bar's junk, that you've done something wrong, you've got a dull chain or it's been pinched somewhere, you can politely explain to them they're talking out of their bottoms. We spoke earlier about how carburetor adjustments are one of the major factors of how the engine will run. Well, spring's just around the corner and it's highly likely that your engines are going to need a bit of a tune. Unfortunately though, it's an area so many people struggle with, even those with years of experience. What if I told you that there's this incredible video out there that teaches you everything you need to know, step by step, and there's even an included flowchart that you can download and print and follow yourself. If that sounds useful, that video I'm talking about is right up here for you next.